Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's a sweet place, this. The message is a continuation of the messages we have given so far in this which is called the Monument Valley Tour. It's message number 6. It's given on February 14 in your year of 2019, which according to your culture and your custom is Love Day. The message today would be no different than any other about love, except that it's more appropriate than ever. So again, dear ones, please allow me, with the blessing of the ancestors in this place, to one more time, for the ears perhaps of those who have not heard it, to reveal some things that we've revealed before, perhaps a little differently, that talks about the majesty of the creative source. Almost every human on the planet, no matter what belief system, knows about the creative source. And as the belief would go, the entire universe was created by one source. Infinitely small you are compared to the universe, and yet infinitely large is the creative source. And if you wanted to put a personality on that source, as often you do as humans, the source is love. Pure love. Nothing but love. As pure as light can be, it is with no darkness at all. Beautiful, benevolent, compassionate love. And we've said it before, as much love as you can imagine for your friends, your pets, your child. It's 1,000 times what that is. And it's focused, dear ones, on the living portions of the creative source, which is you. Dear ones, there's other life in this galaxy, and it's focused on that as well. The creative source is the source of everything. And there's love imbued in that purity in everything. And the reason I start with this yet again, is to let you know that you, dear ones, have created this veil that you look through to that love. And on this side of the veil, this being where we are right now, this human side, you have duality. And in the duality, there is positive, there is negative, there's light, there's dark, there's all kinds of things which are created by what you call human nature. And it's actually appropriate, fair, and correct, because this gives you the free choice. Because you can see the things that are yin and yang, positive and negative, and you make the choice. But let me tell you something. On the other side of the veil, that creative source, which is so big you can't imagine it, there is no duality there. And there would be those who would say, of course there's no duality there, and they would nod their head. And yes, but really, truly, do you understand this? There's only duality here. And yet, there are so many who will then take the duality that is here in this small little earth, where you struggle with a low percentage of light. And you struggle with your duality, and you struggle to improve constantly with free choice. But you take that struggle and you place it upon what you believe is on the other side of the veil. And you have made God then dysfunctional at the core. You've taken this love, pure source, and you've said, well, we are humans. All we know is human nature. Therefore, everything has to be like us. And then there is an angry God, and one who does not get pleased all the time, and one who will actually torture children. And this is the belief system about that beautiful creative source. And again, I will tell you, you've taken yourselves and pasted it on that which is sacred. Let's speak about where that leads and what happens. Because the next step is the creation then of sin. And if you would then ask those who believe in the sin, what is it? Define sin. It's that which displeases God. Anything that displeases God then is sin. And then if there is sin, there must be forgiveness. Let me tell you something, dear ones. Pure love, at the absolutely purest of love, is unable to be displeased. God does not have a human brain that has pleasure and not pleasure, or judgment or not judgment. Pure love is pure love. It doesn't even enter. It cannot. It's like taking the purest light you could ever imagine and trying to throw mud at it and thinking it'll stick like it sticks on you. And yet there are billions on the planet that have put mud on God. Forgiveness, dear ones. In a spiritual world, is almost an industry. I want you to think for a moment. If you took children and wanted to make a test of their free will, and you put them in a dark place where they could barely see, and then they run into walls and they run into each other, and every time they run into a wall or run into each other, you dock them and call it sin, and you punish them. You take them out, punish them, put them back. Because they ran into a wall because they couldn't see well. That's exactly what you have said God does to you. Not all of you, but billions of you. And this, dear ones, will be part of the shift. A spiritual awakening of logic. God is not human. God would not do that. And yet sin has created forgiveness, an industry. If you don't think it's an industry, even within the spiritual, just look at your history. We sat in a place you would call Italy, and we spoke of a man you would call Francis, in a place you would call Assisi. And the most sacred of leaders at that point in time was the Pope in Italy. And that Pope at that moment was selling forgiveness of sin. Inappropriate to the max, you might say. And Francis saw it because Francis was pure and he was filled with the love of the creative source. He wasn't filled with the pompousness of the Pope. The story of Francis is quite amazing. For today he's Saint Francis, and yet he never was a priest. But he was attractive. Like any other master of this planet who is pure, he was attractive because of his purity and his love. And even the priests of the church were attracted to him because of what he believed and said, how he acted, what he did in his life, what he showed people he could be. That was Francis. We've told you before that he bribed the Pope. For he needed money for his enclave. He needed money for his animals. He needed money for his hospital. And so he told the Pope something because the Pope met with him. He had to because he was pulling away priests. He was becoming dangerous in his purity. And he said to the Pope, if you'll give me the money for these things, I will then stop being that attractive, because you will then stop selling forgiveness of sin. And that was the agreement. And in the church in Francis of Assisi, there's even a painting that portrays it, although the people who would then guide you through that church won't then identify that painting of that way. In fact, that painting shows Francis of Assisi and the Pope meeting with a scroll of demands from Francis to the Pope. A list, you might say, an agreement, you might say, so the Pope would stop selling sin forgiveness. The guides will tell you it's a list of Francis' sins. I'm going to tell you it's in a contract that changed who the Pope was, changed the church, and made it more pure. That's the kind of an industry forgiveness has become to some. In some ways, it becomes an industry of fear. If you don't have that kind of forgiveness from a God who's going to judge you, from that pure love thing, then there's the fear of what might happen to your soul. And these things, dear ones, are not from God. They cannot be from the pure source of light and love, which is not a consciousness of a human. It has come from humans to humans, humanity, systems. The most inappropriate thing that is here today on this planet is fearing the source of light, when all that source wants to do is love you. Love is the message of the day. Earlier today, dear ones, you had a forgiveness exercise, but it had nothing to do with a spiritual forgiveness. It had to do with human to human. And that is the forgiveness I want to speak of. I want to talk about what it means, and perhaps in a way you haven't heard before. I want you to right now relax in the arms of God, whatever that word means to you, just for a moment, and see that precious pure light as I tell you this story. The story is, again, a logic story. More than that, it defines the attributes of your brain. So you'll understand what you're doing when you start to forgive. Coming right from the light, right now, I want to show you this. When each of you were a child, there came a time when you had that moment where you would burn your hand or your arm or your leg with something hot. It happens to every child, because as much as their parents will warn them against heat, there comes a time when you test it. And at that moment when you burn your hand or your finger, as a child, dear ones, even before you can speak, that episode will etch itself into the neurons of your brain, in the synapse of the place in the bundles where memories are kept. The burning of the hand is there all your life. Now, the reason I tell you this, in a moment you'll find out, it's permanent. It would be nice if you could undo it, if you could delete it, but you can't. Your brain is not like the current day computer. There's no delete key. It stays there. It stays there. Now, in the case of burning your hand, it's survival. It stays there because it needs to stay there, so you won't forget it. But that's the way of the brain. But it also happens with something else. Dear ones, it happens with betrayal. It happens with unkindness. It happens with the trauma of experience. It happens with abusive parents to children. All of that etched upon the brain. And the time perhaps even when you're an adult, when you have betrayal, when you have these kinds of things, it etches itself in the same place where you burned your hand. And in those places, it stays, and you can't undo it. And so today, you went through an exercise where you might have written some of those things down, and it might have been difficult to even write them. Because these are the things you want to forget. Because to remember them brings up all the feelings again, just like burning your hand. And all of those feelings will come to a head, and there will be tears, and there will be uncomfortableness and sorrow. And so most of you stay away from those things, but all of you have them to some degree, more than others for some. And you wrote them down, which was difficult, and you burned them in a significant ceremony to say, they're gone. This is how I see it. They're gone. But I just told you they're not. But your ceremony is telling your brain that they are. Let me tell you what you did today, and anyone else listening, and the parables I've given in the past about what a Lemurian woman would do as she burns the leaf that she has etched on these things into the volcano fire. Because I've even channeled before that this is an appropriate thing to do, as you did today. So let me give you a vision of how you take something in your brain that is forever until your last breath, just like burning your hand, and instead you transform it. Whatever that was that you wrote on the piece of paper, or for those listening who didn't do the exercise, whatever it is that you could think of that is the betrayal of the thing that eats at you at night when you sleep or doesn't let you sleep. The thing that can't forget because it was so awful to you, so uncomfortable, so sorrowful to you. Whatever it is, even if it's a memory where you're asking forgiveness of yourself because you keep bringing it up and beating yourself like a little whip with it, it's still there. So I want you to have this vision of what really might be happening in your brain, what you do. And it has to do with the power of compassion and love. In the yin and yang scenario, in the black and white scenario, of all the things that a human being can do, one of the most beautiful things is this. You have a piece of the creative source in you that is multidimensional and goes beyond that which any human being could do by themselves, and it's called the higher self. That higher self, think of this, it's your soul that has one foot on the other side of the veil and one foot here, metaphorically, as it would stand there. It is the conduit, the bridge, the one that you're always trying to get to. But let me tell you, here's where you can use it. Because that higher self is also like a direct contact, conduit, wire, whatever, to the purest light and love you can imagine. And so let's see if you can vision this because of what you did today with the fire. And you have that pure, bright light like a searing fire, except it's not a destructive fire. It's an encompassing connection that circles the memory with compassion. There it is in your brain, and I want you to see, coming from the other side of the veil, a shell. You can't delete it biologically, but here comes that beautiful shell of compassion that is so beautiful and so loving, and it encircles that memory. That thing that you want to have go away, that you say, I want to forgive that person or those people or myself, whatever that's the encompassing shell of multidimensional light that encompasses and forgives. And it goes right around that memory in your brain so that every single time you go back to that, it's covered with forgiveness, compassion, and love, and you can never get to that hurtful place again. So complete would it be that you could even go in there with a set of tools, and you can't get to it. So what you've done is, instead of eliminating it, you've transmuted it, covered it with love. This has to make sense to you. The vision is more accurate than you know. It has to do with complex consciousness, dear ones. And so we've simplified it so that it can be visualized and acted upon and understood. There are those who will tell you that those things that you wrote on the paper are forever. And I'm here to say they're right. But how you treat them and how they work with your consciousness from now on in your life is not forever and can be transmuted. Psychologists have worked on this for decades. And here it is yet again, in a way I'm presenting. And I'm telling you this, it's permanent. In a linear world, there are so many things that you do over and over and over and over because more is better. In a multidimensional world, once you throw the switch, it's forever. That's much different. There'll be those who tell you how many times you have to count the beads in order for certain things to happen, or how many times you have to say a phrase before God will hear you. I'm telling you this, God knows you so well that if you simply look into the eyes of the Creator, it's gone. One time. That's how powerful you are with yourself. So I want you one more time to envision that burning piece of paper today that you had. And see not only the paper smoldering and going away, but suddenly the connection to the other side of the veil coming in and covering those things, whether it was you who had to forgive yourself or you're forgiving somebody else. Doesn't matter. Whatever memory. There's somebody in the audience needs to hear this because there was a death of a child. And that is something profound, Mom. You're never going to forget that. And it's so sorrowful. You start putting that together, where you put that compassion, and then you start having all of these revelations. And the revelation is that the soul of the child is still here smiling and saying, "Thanks, Mom." I never wanted to etch something in there like that. I want you to listen. Only wanted love, only wanted love, only wanted love. The person you're forgiving on the planet, that may or may not still be alive, it's the best they could do in that yin and yang world. It's the best they had. And it wasn't good enough for you. And it etched something in your brain. Today you cover it with that compassion from the source and the light. So you can't get to it anymore. And suddenly you start to breathe easier and saying, it's like I just dropped a big suitcase of lead. That I'm free. It's almost like I can float now. Because I don't have to take that anymore. I don't have to bring that around, and I don't have to drag it like an anchor. Because you've covered it with compassion. This is as good as it gets, dear ones, for a human being to be balanced. You can't carry these things and call yourself a balanced human being. Because you're out of balance. You're always dragging something around. And so this is how it's done. And it shouldn't surprise you on this Valentine's Day that I would yet again tell you about the incredible love that is on the other side of the veil for you. Not anger, not fear. God does not think like a human being. God, the creative source, if you can even say think, has no thoughts except, if you had to say what is a thinking God, it is one who projects, propels, and throws light and love and compassion as best can to you through a dark and dim place that you are slowly creating light within. And that is why we are so excited about the shift. Because there'll come a time when that dimness will go away. And the veil starts to become thinner. Mark my word, there'll be a day when you look back sometime in human history and you will see all the things that I have mentioned about the projection of the human onto God as a children's story. And you'll know the truth. God is love. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We've spoken to you so many times about the beauty of who you are. And we've said to those who sit in front of me in person, to those listening later, that inside of you, at a level that is multidimensional, which you cannot even fathom, is the actual creator of all things. The biology you carry, that you call yourself, is temporary. This day, my partner brought you a concept on purpose that would help you to understand more about the reality of the fact that reincarnation is the way of it. The word is not necessarily the word we would use. We would say life expression. When your soul would come back and inhabit that which is another human being's body that you continue with as your soul. And so there is something here to look at. It's beautiful. What did you think when you saw the proof that was given today that the potential of coming again is real? So now it's time to start connecting the dots, because there is a responsibility that starts to come with the elegance of your maturing soul. I'm going to call this channel Soul Stewardship. You've got to start understanding and cognizing the truth of the fact that you're ancient. Question. For you to use spiritual logic. If you come back again and you're a human again, is it an accident? The answer you would give is it's obviously not an accident. It's the way things work. Next question. If it's the way things work, there has to be a working plan. Would you agree? If there is a working plan, then you have to ask, who is working the plan? Where did it come from? Is it this way by accident? No, it's this way because it's planned. If there is a plan, what kind of a plan is it? And the answer is a benevolent one. One that knows who you are. The thing that we have approached before that is so difficult for you. A question was asked this very day that my partner could not answer, and so I will. What is the distance of time from the death of the human being that has your soul to the time when you will come back and inhabit yet another body with the same soul? What's the distance of time in reincarnation? And this is where it gets good. Dear ones, there is no rule that says you have to stay away. There's no rule that says you have to come back at a certain time, a certain place. There are no parameters that are spiritual that says there's got to be a rest period. That's funny. Instead, you wait for your karmic group to have the right time and the right place so you'll be back in a benevolent way and do what you came to do. And sometimes that means that if you left too soon, the group has to grow up and you'll come back later. Sometimes those in the group have to pass away and reincarnate so you can reincarnate with them. Your time frame, therefore, is dependent upon what happens on the planet, not on rules. Now, I want you to analyze this for a moment, because this is a benevolent plan. It is not one that adheres to certain kind of spiritual doctrine that says this must be and this must be. It is one that celebrates the souls returning to the planet. Now this is all starting to shift. It's all starting to change. The shift that we have talked about, that my partner teaches, is real. I am here, talking to you in this way, in this channeling way, because of the shift. There would be no Kryon if you didn't make it. And yet I came in 26 years ago, before the potential. And the reason for this is we could see the wild cards in progress. Those who will notice that I showed up just about the time that the largest wild card occurred. And that is the fall of the Soviet Union. That really took the energy out of World War III. There are still those, even after it didn't happen, that are trying to rekindle the idea of another war. So invested in an old energy that for eons ramped itself up to go to a certain ignite point. And it's something that they say has to happen. And yet it didn't. Dear ones, the shift is real. And with the shift comes many things that my partner has discussed, but not this one. Soul stewardship. For the first time, dear ones, you start to cognize, to understand the system. I would like to explain something to you. An old system of unawareness has you reborn into the planet to start over. The only things that you bring in akashically are slight remembrances that will trigger certain actions or make you fear or perhaps make you successful. So they are energetic in the fact that you remember that which you did. And it either helps or hinders, but it's a lesson. In that old energy, you literally will start again, make all the mistakes again, until you come to the end of your life. And if you're metaphysical, you'll say what you're saying today. This is my last time, you will say. And of course it won't be. But you're tired, because you had to go through it yet again. Dear ones, the shift has changed it all. The very paradigm of soul return is going to carry different attributes. Don't be shocked when I tell you that these attributes are going to be greater awareness, more benevolence, a more mature and elegant countenance. Listen to this. We've said this before, but it's time you really understood it. Karma is no longer needed. It worked in the past, but it is a blind energy of unfinished business. It's not elegant. It simply pushes and pulls. It is responsible for so many things that you see, perhaps you didn't even understand. Why would you have families of generations of firemen, of policemen, Because they have done it, they've come in again, their karma is to continue it. They know it so well that they fit into the groove. Their parents did it, they'll do it, their sons will do it. This is karma. Other kinds of karma is blind energy that will push and pull unfinished business, where you'll go someplace and do something to accomplish a goal. A goal that seems to be something you must do. You're driven and nobody can figure out why. Or to make things right. Or to do something that is something you tried and failed in a past life, and here you come to do it again and make it work. That's karma. And we told you, you don't need it. 26 years ago, the first communication, we said, this is an old energy system, and you no longer need it. We said instead there's going to be a more elegant system of remembrance. Instead of a blind system of energy, there's going to be a wonderful, elegant system of remembrance. Let me tell you about what happens to every old soul that is listening to this and in this room. All of you. My partners included. All of you. There come a time when you will leave this planet appropriately. And when you do, the time of return will completely be dependent on those things around you and those that you have chosen to be with the next time. And when you arrive, dear ones, literally, at the birth canal, the first breath, there is going to be a feeling in every cell that says, I'm back. And when you are old enough to cognize yourself, to see who you are and start realizing what is at hand, you're going to start remembering things from the past. Not things that are chapter and verse, but wisdom. Dear ones, when you grow up, if you burn your hand as a child, you will never go to that stove again. All through your life, to your dying day, you learn the lesson. And it goes right into the neural pathways and etches a pattern that says, danger, I'm not going to do this. In an older system, before the shift, when you were reborn, you had to do it again. And you put your hand on the stove again. Now you don't. You come in with the knowledge of what works and what does not work. Let me be clear. I'll say it again. The mistakes you made this time around, you will not make the next time. There will be an intuitive, innate sense of how to make things work and where to go. Because in this new energy, you awaken to a soul inside your body which is far more alert, knows it's back, and even though you cannot verbalize that, you have the sense of what is correct and not correct. And it's everywhere. It is in all parts of your life. It is in relationships. It is in business. And you'll feel an appropriateness or a non-appropriateness. You will be joined by other old souls slowly who feel the same thing. There'll come time when a population starts to grow in this manner because of the shift. They may not be spiritual. It doesn't matter. Because they are starting to awaken and remember what works and what doesn't. And that is why I will tell you again that after this shift, the generations to come will not create war. Because they know what doesn't work. Up to this point, every time you came in, you started over. History repeated itself because the generations didn't learn anything. Not really. You're never old enough. You died too soon. If you had lasted 200 years, you'd have known better. You would have seen it. You would have remembered it. But you don't. And therefore, one generation comes in without the knowledge of the wisdom of the last and repeats that which you did before. That is all stopping now. Old souls who return are going to start feeling a responsibility for stewarding their soul. Now here's where it gets good. I told you that in the cave of creation, you pick up the information that you had before that was Akashic, and then you come in again and you continue. What I didn't tell you was this, that all the things you do on this planet have a cumulative effect on the planet. Every lifetime you'll have from now on, because of this new responsibility, will go back into the cave of creation when you leave and be picked up when you come back, and all of it affects the crystalline grid. If you are wise enough to start stewarding that which is your higher self, your soul, you'll start understanding that what you do stays, goes into the planet, becomes part of all things. An individual who stewards their soul now and later, this will be the intuitive part of the new human. The new human will recognize there is a plan of return. Will recognize that a return means you pick it up and you go from there. Compassion has always been the key. A more elegant kind of living is one where you start etching new patterns, not only for your lives to come, but for your children. For they start to pick up the patterns that you show. You know this. This gets right down to how you live. And we say it again to all of you. Right now, how do you feel about others around you in this society? Common things. How do you feel? In a very linear way, you go to a very high-quality restaurant, you dress up. You know that it's going to probably be costly, but you're ready for it because you're there. And in comes a server. I want to ask you, who are they to you? When you look at them, first glance, old soul, oh elevated one, who are they? There'll be some who will say, well, the scenario today is I am important and they are serving me. And so I will treat them accordingly. They're the servers, I'm the servee. This is the energy you were taught. This is the energy that prevails in a linear fashion. This is what is expected, even by the one who is serving. But an elegant old soul who knows how things work and is stewarding the soul emotion, that which gets etched into the crystal, into the planet, will see that server just like them. And the server has the peace of God which is just as beautiful as yours. And there is no separation, even for the elegance of the dinner or the cost of it. The server then becomes part of the family. You can even imagine the server sitting down at the table and enjoying the meal with you. This is a minor example of what we're speaking of. How you see others, forgetting the scenario completely of status, of gender, of age, where you can look at every single human and see that they're stewarding their soul too. And together you see the commonality of the love of God in each. I'll tell you something you'll think will be funny, but if you do this, your meal will taste better. This is the way of it. It is a new paradigm for humanity that is going to start to occur naturally, especially to the old souls who return and remember what doesn't work and what does. And the key has always been, can you see God in others, no matter what they're doing with you? It goes in reverse. How many times have you had somebody in authority over you who was an absolute fool? And you can say, that's normal. What if it is normal? Can you see the God in them? Can you bless them in their foolishness? Can you smile anyway? Can you see a bigger picture of what all are learning and yet do your job in a way that honors them, even in their foolishness? Without spite, without anger. I'm talking to somebody who needs to hear this. In relationships that don't work, and sometimes you feel are endless and you're stuck there, I will tell you, what changes that is when you start to see the God in the other one, if you can. And you start relaxing and you act differently, they will too. Because there is a benevolence in the system that asks for and will create harmony if you take the first step. This is new. In a lighter earth, one that has more potential, more energetic light than any other time, you're going to see more benevolence. You're going to see systems that work better if you will allow it and steward your soul. Because what you do from now on sticks in a way that never has before. The alliance you have with Gaia is closer than ever before. Believe me, you're going to pick up what you reap the next time around and the next time. And you'll know it. And that is why, dear one, the entire persona of human nature, the attributes that you think are human nature, are going to begin to shift. It's going to happen worldwide. It doesn't matter if you're spiritual or not. Wisdom is wisdom. Light and dark are the same for all. And when you arrive in a brighter, lighter earth and take on more wisdom, even if you're not spiritual, some things will start occurring to you that are very mature. Some are already seeing it in their children in a very minor way. They are different because they sense a feeling of knowing what works and doesn't. We have talked about this before. So stand by, because you will someday be one of those children who will then fight the society in your wisdom and your ways. But you won't be alone. Because more and more old souls will have this, the feeling that there is more, that you're responsible for something grander than yourself. The whole planet. And you will start stewarding your soul. This is the message of the day. It's a beautiful one. You see, there is a system. And the system is one that loves you. The human that you are is blind on purpose to the things around you which are grander than you. That is also part of the system. So that you will have real free choice. Not a choice that is battered by karma, but a choice to move in the direction that you feel is correct, based upon the wisdom you have as you walk on the planet. And that, my friends, is going to make a big difference. Some of you are already starting to feel these shifts and these changes. As I leave, I say, I want you to know that you are eternal. The death has no sting. You're always going to be back. You wouldn't miss the party. But this time, the party will be grander. Because you'll remember what to do and what not to do. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. So often in these meetings, the end of the day is a channeling that is personal. It's often more for those in the group here live than anyone who might be listening. Indeed, those who listen will glean the energy, perhaps. Maybe there'll be some information that is new to them. I am so aware, dear ones, of who is here. Spirit knows who's listening, no matter when they listen. A year from now, 2 years, there is a potential of who is listening. Even now, I can tell you. It's in the future, but the potential is there, and Spirit knows the time is in this beautiful circle. But even though there is that, I want to speak to you here before me. Humans all. I have never been a human. There is enamorment, if you can call that, from this angelic source. Not just the love. I know how you tick. I know how you work. I know what you think. And that is why I'm here. To try to soothe the soul who wants to make up things, who wants to get involved perhaps in the dramas that are not even there. In order to help you across this beautiful time passage of the old energy to the new. My partner asked the question when he was fully aware that he would be channeling for the rest of his life. He asked me the question, why now? He said, why at this age? And I told him then there was no age. And it was the beginning of his teaching and his learning about his own body and about something that lurked within it, which is not understood but used so much by those who are sitting in the chairs. We have defined it in so many ways. We have put it in ways that split it apart and put it back together. We've given it numbers of names, but the one you know is innate. We've defined where it goes in the scheme of the 9. We've told you where it goes in the scheme of the 3. Innate is so special for you. And innate is something that responds to consciousness. Let's start at the beginning. Every single human has an esoteric body that is called the innate. Would you say it was biological? It is linked to your biology, so much so that you call it the smart body. Is it linked to spirit? Yes. It is linked to that which is your higher self and also to the biology of your higher self, the pineal. Is it part of your heart and brain? Absolutely. Does it govern things? No. What it does is communicate. And so the innate is the great communicator of your body. It helps give you information and it also receives it. The body itself has its own healing mechanism. We've told you about the health template. We've told you about the Genesis cells. We've given you information that the body stands ready to take information in through the innate, and then the innate communicates to the cells. The cells are always listening, and consciousness is the overview of all of it. Now, why I'm giving you this, which is a review, is because I would like to describe something that some of you are already doing. But it's so beautiful. It's an enhanced tool. In this age, dear ones, I'm going to give you information of an enhanced tool that you can use with innate. Some of you, as I say, will simply hear the definition of what you've already been doing. And for some of you, you need to hear this. And so you have the human body with this wonderful, esoteric body called innate. Some would ask it, where is it? And the answer is everywhere. Is it the Merkaba of the body? No, but it is linked to it. So that smart body, which is the innate, is part of the bridge, you might say, between the 3D and the multi-D. It is that part of the body that communicates with all of the cells at once, if needed. It's the part of the body, literally, that can receive from you the profound consciousness and transform it to spontaneous remission. That is the innate. It's that part of the body that you can muscle test. It's the smart part. It's the smart part that responds to the tapping. It's the smart part that responds to that which is being interviewed by another human. Innate. Now I have a question for you. And it is a question that may be esoteric, but it has a very, very easy answer. The human being, biologically, may be out of balance. Perhaps that even creates a mental problem. Perhaps the human is in psychosis. Perhaps the human is so far out of balance that they've had to seek a healer of some kind. And there they lay on the table. Question: is the innate also unbalanced? The answer, as you very well know, is it's always balanced. The innate is connected to Source. So it doesn't matter how out of balance the human being is. Innate is always pure, always ready. This is the reason, dear ones, affirmations work. For even if you are seeking balance and don't have it in some part of your body or your psyche or your consciousness, the secret to balance has always been the fact that you have something in you which is always balanced. And that is listening, and will bring you back into that place. Whether it's health or mental or consciousness or fear. Now you know that when you open the meditation that you do or you speak to God, you're dealing with another part of you which is always balanced, which is connected to Source and the higher self and the pineal and ready to go. This is the most beautiful engine of the human being that exists in you, because it is always balanced and always ready. There's two bridges. One is you to innate, and the other one is innate to spirit. Innate to spirit is always controlled by the energy of the planet. Did you get that? So if the planet is in a low state of energy, there's a veil. And as good as it wants to, innate can only go through that veil to the degree that you will allow it through the consciousness of the planet. That is shifting. So right away, I am telling you that the innate is able to cross that bridge through the pineal and the higher self to talk to spirit and get that which is what you deserve based upon the peace of God in you. The veil, as defined, is lifting slightly. It requires you, however, to cross the other bridge. And that's the one from you to innate. That's the hardest one. We've spoken of it before. It requires that you cognize the system. Simpler words. It requires you believe it. And that is difficult because that has not necessarily been taught in this particular way. How many times have you heard in order to get to God, you've got to suffer a little? You just broke the bridge. How many times have you been told that you better get on your knees because God is up there and you're down here and you're not worthy? Well, if you believed it, you just broke the bridge. The bridge expects you to understand there is magnificence here. To raise up out of your seat, to be proud enough to say, "Dear innate," and then state who you are. Give the affirmations, knowing that you're worthy. Because you have inside you God. The energy of what you would say is the Christ itself is in you. This is taught here. It's written on the walls here. And maybe that's why you're here this day. To know that God dwells in you to such a degree that the bridges can be built so easily. But that's not what I want to tell you. Question. If a human is out of balance, is innate out of balance? No, innate is perfect. Innate is pure. And so item number one, you can heal yourself through innate. But this is the question that has been on the minds of healers for so long. And the question is that if your innate is in balance, can you somehow transfer that to an unbalanced human being? It's well known that it is difficult for any human to muscle test someone else with their muscles. Can you muscle test with your innate someone else? The jury is still out because you're not really asking the right question. Let me tell you something that healers know. There's some of you, no matter what profession you say you're in, who are soul communicators. You'll step into the room before the patient opens their mouth. You know what's wrong. Medical intuitives can look at a human being and know what's wrong. By the way, they also can see what's right because they see a picture. The picture is not in 3D or 2D or even 4D. It is something that is perceived by their innate. So suddenly I'm telling you something that you already know, but that I've just given you the process. Your innate can sense someone else's innate and give you information about it. Now that's called a gift. But what if this gift were starting to expand? What if it was expanding to the degree that it starts to involve your intuition? so that you could literally stand in front of somebody else and know what they're thinking, or what their unbalance is, or what to say to them to give them peace. This is an expanded gift of healing, but it goes beyond that. What I'm telling you is this, is that your innates are starting to overlap because you're allowing it through a higher consciousness, and the timing of this shift is starting to give you an enhanced ability to do this. I have just given you the secret of an enhanced, evolved human being, and why you will never go to war someday. Because you will be expanding this so that you'll feel the other people, and so you will have the compassion to know what they're going through and what they're like. Instead of an old way of wondering, of trying and tricking, or surrounding yourself and competing. What if there comes a time when compassion is something the whole group feels for one another instantly just because you're together? Ask a healer in this room, is it possible that you can sense what's wrong and what's right with the patient? And they'll say, yes, I do it all the time. Now extend that. Make the field bigger. If you don't think you've had the gift, I will tell you it's sitting there waiting for you to cross the bridge. And you'll say, well, I'm not a healer. Dear ones, what I am saying to you is, wouldn't it be nice to feel what the other person next to you is about, so that you can give them the right information, so you can give them the right emotions, so you can create coherence together. You're not muscle testing your innate for someone else. You're actually combining the fields of two innates so that you can sense what they sense, but so that they can also sense the balance you have. It helps the healer to know where to go, what to touch, what to say. It helps the medical intuitive to identify and help heal. What if it stopped being an extraordinary gift and instead became common? It's happening. Healers in the room are going to hear it in a way they've never done before. They're going to have an enhanced feeling of their senses. They'll be able to know things that they haven't known before, because the senses that they didn't think were involved suddenly are. Some will smell it. This is an enhancement of a human being who will start to evolve with everything you have. But the best one that's coming is the combining of innates in such a way that there is understanding and communication and compassion between souls. Do you think that would help you in the workplace? Oh, yes. Do you think it would help you understand your boss? Not just understand, but be compassionate. In order to give that boss balance, understanding, productivity, because of that. Do you think it might help you with your children? Oh, I have something to tell you about your children. They already have it. That is why some adults don't want to be with certain young people at a certain age. Did you know that? Because those young people look right through you. You know what they're thinking. You're exposed. They already know. Some of you have experienced this. It's an uncomfortable feeling, isn't it? That's what I'm talking about. But they're not looking at you in judgment. They're looking at the compassion factor. Do you think it could help you in relationships with your partner? I know who's here. Listen. Do you think you have a partner you've distanced yourself so far from that there's no hope? I know who's here. Listen, I know who's here. I want to tell you that that spark of compassion is still there. It still is there. To be able to combine that, if you choose to, with understanding and peace, is like reaching out and holding their hand for the first time. Because that's pure. And that's possible. It's new. It's part of the evolution of humankind. I have seen this before. Dear ones, there have those who have had a question that really hasn't been asked. Kryon, were you with the Pleiadians when they went through this? Was there a Kryon channel for the Pleiadians? Yes. Yes. And yes. Wasn't called Kryon because they didn't speak your language. Difficult to pronounce because they had vocal cords that were different, split into two, making double sounds in speech at the same time. But dear ones, I was there and I watched what you are going through today back then. Did the planet that seeded them go through it? Yes. Was there a Kryon? Yes. What I'm telling you is this. This is beautiful. There is precedent. It's not new. I have seen it. All of you have free choice. And the free choice just tempers whether you believe in the bridge, whether you'll use the bridge, or how quickly you'll understand the bridge. But the bridge is there. It's there to be crossed, just like for all of those races on the other planets before you. Biology, a little different. Humanoid, yes. But dear ones, the innate was the same because it's connected to spirit. God is God. And they had the same God that you have. That's why their graduate planet was so beautiful, because it exemplified that love that you feel right now. The seed that was put into you by the Pleiadians to give you 23 three-dimensional pairs of chromosomes and one multidimensional pair, number 24, is the Pleiadian. And that is the same God that created this planet. Is in them, is in you. And the one that helped create this beautiful ground and the village that you're in. I've seen this before. And all I'm telling you is this is the beginning for old souls of a new time. Question, is it too new for you? Will you cross the bridge? Will you wait till you come back when it's easier? Or will you take the gauntlet that I've thrown down to you and said, what is age? Do you have any idea how your body is designed? If you had an idea, it's not designed to age. Are you aware of that? It rejuvenates itself. That's not a body designed to age. And the only thing that ages you is that DNA, which is only working at about 33 to 34%, that makes the replication of your cells less than it should be, where the telomeres start to shorten instead of staying the same length. That is changeable with the bridge. You cross the bridge, you start talking to innate, you give it instructions, stop aging. And you can watch it in the mirror. You can watch your friends who don't have this information that you wish did and won't have it. They will age much faster than you. I throw down the gauntlet and say, do it and see if I'm right. Can you slow down the body clock? Yes. Hundreds of years. Your body is designed to last hundreds of years. That's the plan. When you start aging less as a civilization, you'll have all kinds of medical journals. Be front page. What's happening to humanity? Why is it that you're living so much longer with so fewer drugs? And that magazine cover is coming. It takes a while. Your body is so ready for you, for a consciousness that is grown up. It's time for the grown-up to come out of there and talk to the bridge and say, I know you. Let's get going. I sit in a magnificent place designed for channelers, designed for listeners, in a chapel that was built for prayer, for an age that the creators actually saw coming. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time there's a set of meetings like this, there comes a final channeling, a final message. It occurs to many of you that there would never be this exact group together in this way again. Oh, there would be similar ones. You may even come to see the channeling yet again at another time. But this family is unique. You might say it's a onesie. It's a group that is together with a consciousness that lies just for a little while, 2 days, 3 days, sometimes 4. And then it moves on. That is a very linear thought, coming from a place where you design meetings in a linear fashion, in a linear time. A place is designated, you arrive, you leave, all basic 3-dimensional things. I've said it before. You carry with you the consciousness of the family as long as you live, if you wish. You place it in that area of your consciousness that is timeless. A place where you can remember memories when you were a child, or perhaps even things in the future that you might expect. That's where it goes. A timeless place that says it's always real. It always will be. There's a place, dear ones, that's beautiful in your brain that allows these kinds of things, and you know it. You have flashbacks, perhaps to beginning school days or friends that don't exist anymore. Or memories with loved ones that don't exist anymore, and it's so very real, and you can hear their voice and smell them and remember the times you had that are beautiful. And in some ways, it elicits not sadness, but celebration. And you're right back where it happened. That place in your brain, not a place at all. It's a multidimensional paradigm that allows more than memory. It stores emotion. Let these moments of enjoyment, of mature learning, of fun, endure in that place. So that anytime you want to, you rekindle the family. And when you do it, I want you to know something. that the ones that you've come to see, the channel in the meeting, are with you again. We are multidimensional, dear ones. All the ones that are pulled from that space on the other side of the veil are already in that state. And we'll be right here with you when you do it. That's a promise. You can feel it. You can sense it. The human being makes things linear and literal. And you walk into a place that is becoming multidimensional and non-literal. Non-linear is difficult for you. And the most difficult thing is that which you are trying to create for yourself. Over and over, the messages have been from Kryon, from Adirondack, from the humans that teach around them, that you are able to create a reality that you can envision. This seems so far-fetched to so many who would hear this, that you would actually have energy and control over chance. For there are those who would say that life would be only chance. You run into a certain person, something happens, and we're telling you that that is not the way it works. And the ones who would criticize this would use the logic and say it has to be chance. Otherwise, if it were not, there would have to be a plan. Where people were that you don't know. Having them meet you is as difficult as you is meeting them. They have to be where you are by chance. Therefore, the odds are spectacularly not in your favor. That you would be able to create scenarios by yourself with your consciousness that would put you places. And that's where I want to correct the critic. For no one said that you're going to create this by yourself. And there is a plan. This is where it gets complex to the linear mind. And the ones who would be literal in looking at how things work as they perceive them. I want to give you review, instructions again of how this works, and plug in to that some frustrations that you feel. While you're being frustrated that things are not working out the way you envisioned them, things are working around like a clock, like the gears of not chance but of specificity, in order to create a reality not just for you, but for others who have also asked for the same thing. And this may sound to you to be very, very confusing. It doesn't have to be. First, let us give you one of the axioms that I've given you over and over and over. You don't have to understand the minutia of it to participate in it. You just don't. And there would be those who would even argue with that. And they say, yes, I do. I cannot get from A to B without knowing the roadmap. You're asking me to float around and just show up at B without knowing where A or B is. And I'm saying to you, you got it. That's exactly right. We have to trust the process. The process. Again and again, I bring it down to the level you would understand. You leave the room later. And most of you will get in an automobile. And before you turn the ignition and start the engine, what do? Let me guess. You get out the manual for the internal combustion engine, and you study every single aspect of the gear ratios and the fluid mechanics that are going to get you to where you're going. And you say, well, that's ridiculous. Yes, it is. Are you getting the point? But you trust the process under the hood, don't you? To get you where you're going. And you trust it, and it does. And it's as simple as that. The experiences you've had with the automobile are designed so you never have to look under the hood. They're designed so that it will get you from A to B, and that is its design. And what I'm telling you this is you're designed in order to go from A to B in these things which we are teaching about innate, and these things which you're teaching about trust. And that is not anything to do with chance, dear ones. Nothing. Yesterday, my partner showed you the experiments that prove, without a doubt, measured by satellites, without a doubt, that you can then change a reality with consciousness. In one case, it actually changed the strength of the magnetic grid with consciousness. In the other case, it interrupted chance. And that's what we'll get to. That's what we teach. That's a process. And if you understood it, and if you trust it, then you start to understand, I can design my life. When I leave the room, I will start expecting benevolent things. But more than that, let's talk about what you actually want to do. I'm going to give you an example that involves all the frustrations that you have. Number one, patience. You don't have any. Because you think that when you make an order in a restaurant, eventually, sooner than later, it will be fulfilled. And in that same linear fashion, you're conceiving that what you're asking for from Spirit has to go to some spiritual kitchen and be cooked. And you're going to wait for it, and it will arrive. And that is simplicity. Let me tell you how it works. There is an overview of every human on the planet and the consciousness of every human on the planet. And what you often are asking for in life, let's say it is to be a certain thing or to accomplish certain things and to be something that you have always envisioned, and that is it. And in order for that, you got to meet people. Things have to happen to you. Situations must change. And we've told you before that what you can envision, you can have. But it has to be in all appropriateness with everything around you. Now, for that to happen, you must understand that there are others that also have to interface with this same plan of yours. But they exist, and that's it. What if your plan was an intuitive plan that you've always had, because in that which is the field, it's manifestable? Because there are others with the same plan wishing to meet you. Have you thought of that? And if that's the case, what do you think would be the complexity of having that other person in the right place at the right time where you arrive and you both seemingly believe it's chance? Maybe there's a little time involved. And during that time, maybe you'll have other things to do instead of deciding it's not working. Let's talk about woe. Woe is a woe man. Today he's a man. And in this little story, he has taken this and cognized it. And he said, I am going to meet a man, and together we are going to have an invention or a business that I've always wanted to be in. It's going to help people. I know it. I had 2 psychics tell me that's where it could go. I heard this. I feel this. I know this. Then I went to a meeting where Kryon, well, he said it's possible with intent. Not only that, Kryon gave another parable early on. Kryon said it's like getting the ticket to the train. Here's your ticket. Now there's no schedule on it of when the train is coming. But you got a ticket to ride. And so there's no question you're going to go. And you're going to happen. It's going to happen in this lifetime. And that is the linear part, and that's all you know. So you take the ticket and you show up at the place where the train tracks are, and there's the little depot. That's where you wait and wait and wait some more. Then you start tapping your toe, and then you start doubting whether really it's going to happen at all. That's when you reach in your pocket and examine the ticket and say, yeah, the ticket says I'm going on the train, and the train's going to take me to this thing I want, and all. And then you start looking at the ticket again, and you realize, well, it doesn't say anything about a train, really. Not really. But that's the metaphor. Here, Kryon talked about going and having the train arrive, and I don't see, I haven't seen any trains arrive, and that bothers me. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, and the advice I'm going to give you, if this is you and this suits you, I want you to forget it. I want you to forget the goal. Because if you concentrate on the goal that you created, it's going to stop it. Because the goal of what's going to happen may actually be far beyond or different than what you think you are headed for. Would it be all right if it was better than you created? Hello? Yes, I know. Again, would it be all right if it's better than your vision? Yes. All right. So here's the point. If you're holding on to that vision and that's all you see, you're blocking it. Do you see that? So here's woe at the station, looking in both directions for the train. And he looks to the left, and he looks to the right, and he does it for months. And he's just sitting there. Sure, he gets his meals. Sure, he has a little depot. He gets to go to the bathroom, all of these things. But he's sitting and waiting for the train. Wait. Pretty soon he gets really disgusted, almost ready to tear up his ticket. And finally he does. Cryon's wrong. This is not working. Dear angels, tears up the ticket, puts it on the ground, walks into the depot, has to go to the bathroom, and runs right into the dude he was supposed to meet in the bathroom. Dude is language from my partner. Do you see what just happened? The man he met was exactly what he had hoped for and more. There was far more. And the man he met was on the other side with other tracks. He had torn up his ticket, and he was going to the bathroom. And that's where they met. And this all to tell you that you cannot then count on what you expect as a goal and keep it there and lift it up and draw it in your mind over and over and think that that's what Spirit's going to deliver to you. What you have to do is release it and say this or something better. I'm all right to go to a different direction, maybe not even the train station. I've got a ticket. Maybe it's not even for a train. Maybe it's just for a ticket for synchronicity. Maybe it's a ticket to meet somebody in the bathroom. And you don't know. You just don't know. And that's the point. You didn't have to do the minutia of the engine in the car. You don't have to do the minutia here. What you have to do is live your life with expectation, with compassion. The expectation is in benevolence and solution, and that you will always be guided to be in the right place at the right time. So when that person comes, no matter where they come to, accidentally, you'll meet them. And you'll recognize it. It may even be in a meeting like this, where you'll meet them. Maybe it's not the person, but maybe it's a person who knows the person, who will then take you there in some way. Maybe it's two people removed but it'll happen. And there are stories within stories, even in this group and those listening to this channel, that will say, that's what happened to me. I wasn't expecting it, and that's what happened to me. I couldn't believe it. And if it hadn't been for being in this place I never really thought I'd even be, it never would have happened. And then you say, well, what made you go to that place? And they'll say, I don't know. And that's just a way of saying intuition, that you don't understand yet. It's not linear, but it felt right and you went. And that's the answer. Let these kinds of new paradigms guide your life in a way that your parents never taught you. Be in places because you feel you should be, instead of that is the thing that somebody told you to do. Feel that which is the reality of the next step, or going left or going right, with all integrity and responsibility to be in the right place at the right time. I think so many times of those who said, I was pulled out of my city, and I knew I had to start this healing center, and I used all my credit cards, and I went someplace else, and I tried this and that, and it all failed, and I had to come back and live with Mom. Mom had a friend, and that's where I met my life's partner. I had to come back, and they wanted to start a healing center. And that's how it works. You think you know. You think you got it figured out. Sometimes you act way too soon, not understanding that when you get instructions from that other side of the veil and you think things happen to you that give you vision, that it doesn't mean necessarily immediately or right now. It means this is what you're waiting for. Now have the patience to be in the right place at the right time and follow the guidance of your intuition, not of your logic, not of the way you think it works. And in the process, be loved the whole time. Instead of frustration, peace. Knowing that what it is that you desire indeed will be yours. It's not a trick, it's a plan. And it's consciousness that is so powerful in the human that creates this. Not from some angelic source, not from the creative source. It's you, working with the plan that was built and designed so that humans can work with one another, find one another, love one another, and be peaceful in the process. That's the message. It always will be. So, dear human beings of a family group that is unique tonight, I want you to recreate this family. Anytime you want, I'll be there. Adirondha will be there. And you'll hear the wisdom yet again in a different way, coming from the other side of the veil for you, because that's the design. And because you're magnificent, that's the design. Think of these things and leave differently than you came. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. The thrust of the teaching today I gave to my partner so that you could ask the question, is it possible that this new energy, that new consciousness, that all of the things we've been talking about would also involve that which was the whole planet? The energy of the earth, the physics that you know, the esoterics that you believe, the angelics that you depend on. And the answer is yes. Everything and everyone is involved in this, which is the greatest shift that humanity has ever started. And I emphasize yet again, started. For that is where you are. In the scheme of things, dear ones, consciousness is not something that shifts instantly. It will happen in different forms, in different ways, in different cultures, and it takes different times. As you sit there or as you listen to this, for your culture, you may already be experiencing this very thing, and in others, they may not experience it for a generation. One becomes a catalyst for the other. And typically, there will be those on the planet who will receive things to help others. The shift is real. There are still those listening who wonder. I'd like to tell you about it. I'm going to label this particular message Surprises in the New Energy. We're going to start by saying there are those who inexplicably have just awakened. Those who would listen to these channels, which have been posted since 2005, and find them new. For the first time, without a book, stumble upon this message and be listening now. So I'll say to you, dear one, welcome. It's not an accident that your ears hear this, a message for you. Why would you suddenly be interested in these things now? It's almost like there is an acceleration program for some people. Ones who would never, ever be listening to something like this are now doing so willingly, without anyone around. Is there something here? And there is. Dear one, if you're one of those who is just awakening now in so many ways, we tell you that this is what the energy creates. It literally affects that which is your akash. You start to awaken into purpose that you never thought you had before. Things start occurring to you, beautiful things. Is there more? Is there a lot more? Is there a system that I have missed? What is being said about it? Who is talking? And then there is that integrity that starts to tell you what you're hearing is right or wrong. Is the messenger trying to sell you something? Is the messenger trying to get you to do something? This messenger of Kryon is trying to tell you that you are loved beyond what you think you are from a creative source that you have called God. The earth knows about this source, the singular God, the oneness of God, but they don't know that there is a beauty of benevolence that exists that knows your name. That's the message. And that something grand has happened on the planet. Something that was predicted by the ancients, not by the currents, not by your scripture, but by the ancients. That is what is taking place. Things that you will find in the ancient calendars, and the writings on the walls, in the lips of the elders who remember what they were taught. A time of great decision, a time of great light and dark, a time of no fence sitting, a time of truth, a time of awareness and awakening. And every single human will have a choice to accept it, to see it, or to simply walk the way they've been walking. But the ones who will see it first, the ones who will listen to this message and wonder why they are the ones that have been on this planet for eons. That is the old soul. Your soul is journeying through life. The soul is eternal. It never dies. It comes and goes and comes and goes in different kinds of situations, cultures, bodies, genders, and learns things as it goes. This is the time you planned for, old soul, whether you know it or not. There may be mystery right now to you. What is this? What is really being said? And so for you, we say, take it slowly, listen carefully, and perceive truth. But the ancients knew that human consciousness would someday awaken to a higher, much higher ethics. The beginning would be with those who were old souls who had been on the planet the longest and would have the equipment, that is, the experience, to see what it was. It's a fast track of learning, helped along by the things that we have channeled are happening, that the earth itself and all that is upon it knows who you are and what is going on, and that there are processes at work that will make this an awakening far, far easier. Because the processes are one that will void the dark, make it uncomfortable for those who only want the darkness in their lives, and will eventually wipe away that which you even would consider to be evil. This is where you are. The beginning is where you are. The second kind of person is the one I want to address now, who is the old soul, who knows this, who has been listening for years, who expected it, and now is having trouble with it. Trouble in the new age, we can say. And the reasons have been covered over and over. But I want to give some advice. A few pointers you may not have heard before. A review, and then some new things. First, I want to take a moment. 28 years ago, the ball was rolling toward this. I came in 1989. The political changes on the planet were vast. It was starting then to change the future. My partner was not necessarily receptive, and it took years to the place where he could write that was even understandable. At that point in time, you might say, well, Kryon, did you think you would ever be talking about the shift? Would it take place? I had seen this before. I knew there would be those who would not accept it. But I want to tell you how I feel. There is emotion on the other side of the veil. It is compassion, it is love, it is celebration. It's pure. It is absolutely pure. There are those who have sat in the ecstasy of God. For eons they've talked about it. You see them, they're painted. Their eyes are cast upwards. And they have God inside. There's light around them. That's how I feel. To sit here, have you been past that marker and on your way to something grand? Knowing in advance that there will be doubt in the future, because you will see 2 steps forward and 1 back. And yet there's no stopping the ball from rolling toward an accelerated graduate earth of high consciousness at a pace that will be at your own decision and your own level. But it will go faster, dear ones, dear old soul, if you'll listen to me now. Some of you have been in this you call metaphysics most of your life. That's who I want to address. The one who is just awakening, who was not in this, won't have the issues you have. None of them. Everything will be new. They will have decisions to make. They will not have to unlearn anything that they learned. And you will. And the hardest thing is the bias that you carry over. It tells you you know how to connect to God. We have talked about this before. We've given you metaphors before. But we really haven't discussed it in this terminology. What are you going to do when you lose it? Healer, are you listening? Reader, are you listening? The connection is that which you felt in the past. You know you're connected. You can feel it. Again, I go with the paintings. The shaft of light comes down and your eyes are cast up. It's like you're looking into the eyes of an angel. You feel it. Your whole cellular structure radiates and vibrates. I'm connected. And that's when the epiphanies come and the beautiful dreams, the writings, the prophecies, the joy. And along comes 2012. And you sit there with your eyes cast up, and there's no light. And there's no thing that would ever give you an indication you were connected at all. No thing. And we've discussed this before, and you say it's been shut off. And it hasn't been. It's simply moved. But the bias you carry is that this is what I've always done. It's coming back. Things will settle. It's coming back. No, it isn't, dear ones. It moved on. It moved to a higher frequency. It moved to a higher level. It moved to a higher light source. It moved a little bit over there. Not too far. It's just over there. And yet the bias of the human being says God is the same today, yesterday, forever. Therefore, God is going to be the same. And the truth is this. You're right. But again, we say it's human beings that change the relationship to God. Therefore, move over, because you are expected to vibrate higher, to feel that which says you can get into the light. The old place you sat is that which is now old. It's not commensurate with your magnificence. Get up, move over, get in the light. The frequency, you might say, you might describe, of the connection has moved. You might say it's higher. I say it's different. You've had what I would call a very identifiable three-dimensional frequency you tune into and feel the ecstasy of God. Suddenly there's layers. Suddenly there's multidimensionality. Suddenly it's in color instead of just one yellow. The light now resonates so differently. And you're still sitting in that same place, literally in the dark, because you don't want to move. There are those who say, all right, Kryon, I understand. How do I do it? Let me ask you this. How did you do the first one? Did you jump through hoops? Did you climb ladders or steps? Did you have to have lessons? And the answer is no. You just sat there. And you went into a space that said, Dear Spirit, I'm here. Let's talk. You gave the invitation. And over a period of time, this is what took place. Then the connection got more often. If you're a meditator, you know, you get into a certain space, literally, where you float. Everything is there. It clicks into place. Let me ask you, what'd you have to do to get there? The answer is just expect it. That's the answer. Number one, we'll say it again. Understand it moved. Understand that you did nothing wrong. And that this new energy is uncomfortable for some of you because you're just not getting that. You're still sitting in a place expecting the same thing to happen. It got bigger. So did you. You're just not matched up yet. So how do you do it? You do the same thing you always did. First of all, change your position. Don't even consider that it's still where you were. Go to another place. Perhaps even change the chair. Do anything you can that tells your innate, I'm getting ready for something different. Then when you sit there, you can do the same thing you did before. Dear Spirit, I am here in my magnificence. I've got inside. I'm ready for the connection. And over time, dear ones, He'll come to you. It's almost like you're matching light sources. But as long as you expect your light to be somewhere else, it's not going to happen. That's the first step. Second step, if you want to call it even a step at all, is don't decide in advance what it's going to feel like. You think you know, don't you? I've connected for 50 years, you might say, or 30, or 20, or 10 with Spirit. I'm a healer. I know what it feels like to be connected. No, you don't. You know what it feels like to be marginally connected. You have no idea about being connected, and that is the offer. Don't decide in advance what you're looking for. Instead, you stand in this purified light that you can't see and you haven't really experienced yet, and you say, Dear Spirit, I'm here. Match my light to yours. And then don't expect something that you've had before. It's not going to overwhelm you with emotion, dear ones. Maybe the first one did. Now it's going to overwhelm you with truth and wisdom and appropriateness, like a key in a lock. There you are. And you're going to say, this is good. You'll feel it in your heart, not in an overwhelming emotional way, but in a way that says, I am connected. Hard to describe the difference between euphoria and being connected. One is an emotion. It's actually pretty much one way. But the key in the lock, the real connectivity, is a two-way street. You are being given answers. You're being given wisdom. All of these things. I want to talk to some of you. I know who's listening to this. This is not for this audience necessarily. I know who's listening. I want to talk to the senior who's given up. Now you know I've identified you, don't you? It's too much trouble, you'll say. I'm a creature of old habits. I've been doing this a certain way for so long, I'm not really sure that I can change. And even as you say that, and your body hears that, there is an enormous entourage dressed in formal attire, waiting for the party for you to find the energy that's just a step away. You have so much help. If you'd simply acknowledge, I'm going to continue, and it's going to be better than it ever was. There are those of you who have stepped away and told your psyche and your innate that you are frightened and worried because you can't find it again. Did you know this is an invitation for disease in your body? Because if you're not going to stand in the light, dear ones, Why even exist? You might even sign your life away. You spent so much time invested in the light, you can't just cross this bridge and give up. That's an invitation for an unbalance. You know better. You know better. We're all there dressed in formal attire. We're waiting for the light to be turned on for you to arrive and reconnect in a way you never have before and keep it going. That's for the elder who gives up. Being uncomfortable in this new energy is so common for old souls. Because now you've got to drop the baggage. That's the other one. What is it that you've carried around that you think you need? The protection, the clearing, whatever it is, we've told you before. This is new. You can't carry around your lamp oil when you have electricity, and some of you are. It's dangerous. Catches on fire. Do you get it? It's dangerous to carry the old baggage into the new energy, because you'll always use it as a crutch or expect it's going to do this or that when it does nothing. Your light in this new energy is so immense, you don't need electricity or lamp oil. All you need is you and an understanding. Finally, you're connected in a way you've had dreams about. Haven't you had the dreams where you're connected? Haven't you had them stand where you have shafts of light coming through you? Now you know I'm talking to you, don't you? I know who's here. Shafts of light. And you wake up from the dream, you say, wouldn't that be nice? It is nice. Welcome to the new energy, because that's you. That was a foreteller of you in this energy. The light is esoteric. You can't measure it. Not really. Not yet. But the ones who can feel it are the ones that would oppose you. Because no longer is there opposition, not to that kind of light. They'll run from you. You've got wisdom, power. The power of truth and knowledge. Knowledge that will create a civilization eventually that will never war with itself. This is who you are. If you get connected, your health will start to correct itself. Balance is what happens when connectivity takes place. I want to tell you something. Everyone here needs to hear that. If you get connected, the innate in your body will start to clean up that which is biological. It's about that which cleans the body with compassion, understanding, and truth. When your stress levels disappear so they can't be measured anymore. Where disease flows away from you instead of into you. When you can safely walk in dark places and not be afraid because you carry your own light. When the fear of that which would unbalance you goes away because you know it's not yours anymore. It doesn't belong to you anymore. There are those in the room who have actually accepted disease to the point where you say, I have this. Have you ever thought about what your body hears when you say, I have this, and you name something? You've just owned it, acknowledged it, and your body heard you. That is dangerous. Old soul, watch what you say. I have magnificence. I have light. I'm working the puzzle to eliminate this. I am in the process of clearing this. Never say, I have this. and then name a disease or an issue or a problem. Because your innate is so aware right now of your commands to it. It's almost like it's listening to every single word you say to everyone. It's time for you to claim that magnificence. It's going to help you connect. Believe me, you're beginning to turn on your light. It's the beginning. It's why I'm here. The transition is tough. Only because the bias is caused from eons of being a certain way, and now it is not. That's the message today. Oh, there's more. Much more. The oil, the catalyst, the thing that greases the wheels of all of this is a word you don't want to hear. Patience. All of you are impatient. Every single one. Because at some level you can feel it coming. The train is arriving. You got the ticket. You've been waiting years. You can hear it, but it's not here yet. So now you wring your hands and say, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I want you to be patient because it's a guarantee you're going to get on the train. And in the process of the patience, more stress will disappear. It's all related, dear ones, to you passing into an energy you've never seen before, never felt before, never been in before. I'm crying in love with humanity for these very reasons. Being a light worker is work. And so it is.